Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Ninja Shadow of a Tear, or Ninja 2 Shadow of a Tear. Although it's not really a sequel to the first Ninja, it's just called that for whatever reason. American martial artist Casey Bowman, played by Scott Adkins, who is married and expecting his first child with his wife, and is an excellent martial artist. And after he fights off two guys in the mall, and then comes home and says, oh, it's not a big deal, it's just money. Then his wife wakes him up in the middle of the night. She needs chocolate and seaweed because she's having crazy cravings. Then after he goes to the store and comes back, he finds her dead and his place ransacked. Now he tries to figure out who could have done this, and he goes to Thailand, where his friend owns a dojo and tells him about this evil crime boss named Goro, who was apparently behind not only his wife's deaths, but he's the big drug lord in town, and he's getting really out of control. And then he even kills one of Casey Bowman's newfound friends at the dojo, and then he goes off on a tale of revenge. His friend says to him, when you're going after a man for revenge, you need to dig 2 graves. And then Casey Bowman responds that, well, we're going to need a lot more graves than that. The reason I saw Ninja Shadow of a Tear really is because I was interested in seeing these on-demand or VOD or whatever action movies that I've heard are actually pretty good. I've heard the market's getting a little more interesting, and a lot more interesting than what's going on in the multiplex, and I was a little intrigued, and I heard this one was a particularly fine example of that. One of the things I think that's really suffering in a lot of Hollywood action movies is overcutting during the action sequences. It's mostly to cover up that the fight choreography sucks, or to make the film more interesting. Most of the time it's both. Ninja Shadow of a Tear, all the action sequences are shot with very little cutting. In fact, I think the dialogue scenes have more cutting than the action sequences, and it's because the star of this film, Scott Adkins, is an amazing martial artist and can take out like 3 guys in one take, whereas most action stars now would need about 20 different shots to do that. Scott Adkins only needs 1 or 2, and he uses those shots for all they're worth, and it makes some really thrilling fight sequences, just amazingly thrilling fight sequences. I think this film probably had better fight sequences in it than I've seen from all of Hollywood for the entire year. I mean, there are just so many excellent fight sequences. And this is directed by Isaac Florentine, who has worked with Scott Adkins apparently like 6 times, and he's fairly good at making these kind of low-budget B on-demand action movies. And he's a martial artist as well, and boy can you tell. And it's interesting that when you have somebody who really gets like, well, what makes an action sequence really thrilling, it's a lot like a Gene Kelly movie or a Fred and Ginger movie, where the reason people thought Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers were so talented is because there wasn't a lot of cutting. Not everyone like pays attention to how many edits there are in a fucking movie, but I think it really does make a difference. Even if you can't intellectualize it, you know that guy is somebody who is a complete fucking badass, and he can just drop kick these dudes in just a matter of seconds, and how awe-inspiring and impressive it is. Just how, if you don't know shit about dance, you know Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers are all incredibly talented. And showing that, and showing some amazing fight choreography, is really a thrill. Scott Adkins and Isaac Florentine do that incredibly well. Certainly it's still a B movie, and it drags in the way B movies do. It has twists like a B movie does, and it's very silly. It's almost like stupider and sillier than any B movie Hollywood would ever put out, and it's kind of made in such a way where I think the whole ironic B-movie thing, B-movies engineered to be B-movies like Machete or the newer Piranha films. I feel like when Machete Kills came out, that kind of signified the end of all that, because audiences never really embraced them that much, and they're really kind of waning thin. And this is kind of a different thing, because it feels like, I wouldn't say it's like a throwback action movie like what Stallone and Schwarzenegger are doing, and even with Ninja Assassin. I think this is more like someone actually making a B movie. And since we don't really have a B movie theatrical market anymore, you can put a B movie out, but you're putting it out through a studio, which doesn't feel like the same way it used to in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. There's no kung fu theaters and things like that. So on demand has to kind of facilitate that market. And in a way, it's like kind of made it a little more fun, because this is cheaply made. You can tell they shot this on video, but it's made exactly the way a B movie should. It's like almost like an organic B movie, very pure in its B moviness. Now that did kind of wane on me with all the plot elements, which I didn't really like, and this film isn't really about action. Hell, it's not even about the star Scott Adkins. You could say the star is really the martial arts sequences. Now Scott Adkins is the star of those, so I guess, you know, in a way he is. But it gives you more bang for your buck. I mean, consider if you're getting this on demand, it's about $7, which is about half the price of a regular movie ticket, and it has so many amazing action sequences. You're really getting a lot. I actually got a Little Caesars pizza to eat while I was watching this movie, and I think that kind of contributed to me being a little sleepy during it. But I guess this is kind of like the Little Caesar pizza of movies in a little bit of a way, where I definitely enjoy Little Caesars pizza. I don't actually think it's like a great pizza or anything, but it does what it needs to do and it gets the job done. It's almost like cheap beer. There's a lot of movies who do that and facilitate what I need them to do and get the experience I want, and I'm very happy leaving them. And Ninja Shadow of a Tear does that, but it excels in that in the action sequences way more than I think any modern Hollywood action director could ever dream of. He has a love for what he's doing. He has an understanding, Isaac Florentine, for how to shoot a martial arts action sequence and how to choreograph it. There's such a cohesiveness to it. He's not really relying on shaky camera or anything. When he's moving the camera, he's moving it to show you a certain move clearly. He's a very smart director. I think he's going to go down as one of the best genre directors going on right now, just by evidence by this one movie I've seen from him. I saw he's directed like a ton of films. I really would actually like to go and see all of his movies now, because this was such a cool experience. It was like, oh wow, I just saw an actual good B movie. It's like he actually knows how to do it. There's a difference in that. This is kind of the best way to take down the kind of ironic B movie, is to actually make a very good B movie. He succeeded in that with Scott Adkins. Scott Adkins is not a great actor, but he's probably one of the best martial artists I've seen work in a film today. If you don't like martial arts films, I really don't recommend this movie, but if you do, you will really love this film. It's like the martial arts movies you used to watch with your friends in high school and middle school, and you drink beer and hit each other, make stupid jokes when the fight sequences weren't on. It's an awesomely fun B movie, and it's the kind of B movie I think we've all been waiting for. And it was way more fun, and it had action sequences that I'm going to remember. The fight sequence in a bar, him getting high on crack actually at one point and fighting these guys. Even the final battles were pretty amazing. The fight sequence in the mall, the fight sequence where he gets revenge on the two guys who he fought with in the mall later. There's just so many good fight sequences and so much good fight choreography that it's like almost ridiculous. It feels like I got quite a value for such a great movie. This was a fun B movie, you know. It still is a B movie. It certainly drags in parts. It's not perfect, but I haven't really seen as good of an action genre pick as Ninja Shadow of a Tear is in probably all of 2013, and it makes me a lot more hopeful for this B movie market, and I'm gonna have to check out a lot more of these. And Ninja Shadow of a Tear has definitely spurred that on for me. So if you have seen Ninja Shadow of a Tear and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.